Welcome to a brand new week of Student of the Gun Radio. How lucky are you? You're extremely fortunate. And it is fortuitous that you have decided to join us today. We're going to talk about fingerless gloves. What? I thought this was Student of the Gun Radio. Hey, calm down. I know what I'm doing. I'm professional. And understanding the team. Right now, we are separated by distance, but not by, what would you say?
I have no idea where you're going with that.
By satellite? So we're separated by distance, but we're connected by technology. How's that sound? Zach's here. Are you here, Zach?
Howdy.
Let me turn my headphones down just a little bit because I was rocking out during the break. Question, would you guys like to hear me do a internet or satellite radio show? DJ a show, music appreciation with the Pimp Hand of America.
I mean, personally, I think you should just do the show in the Saratoga Valley area.
Yeah, I'll just do it for 500 people.
Yeah,
no.
Why not?
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it for the world.
But then those people are more special than everyone else.
I like to think that we have the ability. We have the technology to reach more than 500 people.
Does Saratoga?
No, us, that we have the ability to reach more than 500 people with what we do.
Well, that's a great idea that I just had that we're not going to do, but I'm going to say it. You could have it be like a local radio show that's only for the people in that area, and also we could stream it to the grad program.
Oh, man. And also, I could do a pirate radio on Discord.
Lights out. Pirate radio. I know it's guerrilla radio.
Guerrilla radio.
But I updated the thing
up. All right. We did. All right. So we haven't done the opening video
correct
yet. So we should probably do the opening music and then get into the Warrior of the Week because we got another question.
Wow.
Yes, we do.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the Pimp Hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
Yes, indeed. Jared, you and I were having a conversation this last week about how even though we have a situation where even though there's information available, it's not being consumed and it's not being retained. And my hypothesis was that the reason that information, even though there's more information available right now than ever in any point in the history of our lifetimes, of their world, we're retaining less. People are retaining less. And I believe, number one, it's because we're not getting our information directly from the written word. I believe that is hampering retention. And then, Jared, what was your hypothesis to go along with that, the hampering of retention?
Yeah, the hampering of retention. My hypothesis on this is that because we're not consuming written material, it's because the material that we're consuming via video, we don't have time, or we don't put aside the time. It's not that we don't have it, it's that we don't dedicate the time actually digest the material that we're watching and listening to. And part of the reason is because humans like to consume a lot of content. They just like to consume. So what do the tech platforms do? They make it easy to watch the next video. So for instance, if you go to YouTube and you watch a video, as soon as you're done with that video, the next thing starts auto playing. So you go from, if you're watching something of substance, and then the next video is a cat video because you like watching those sometimes, you completely forget about in the information that you just had the opportunity to consume. You don't have the opportunity to digest because you're moving on to a different topic almost immediately.
Well, it's falling down the well. I know this has happened to me.
Oh, it happens to me.
Someone will send you someone who you actually trust, right? Someone will send you a video link. They're like, "Hey, brother, watch this," and so you will, right? You'll watch the original video that had some sort of importance or substance or whatever, And then 15 minutes later, you wonder how you got where you were. Like, where's the last 15 minutes gone? And why am I even here?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's one of the reasons why I got rid of Facebook from my phone, because every time it got me. I would get a link, I'd go into the app on my phone, and then it would feed me other so that blocks the news feed, and then I don't have the app, so it makes it difficult for me to continue doing that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stick with my being of the age that I am and the experience that I have. I'm going to stick with my partial hypothesis that one of the reasons that people do not retain information today the way they used to is because when you read something, you're actively engaged in the consumption, as opposed to watching a video where you just sit there and it's fed to you. From an intellectual standpoint, when you read a book, you're not watching the camera, so I'll tell you what I have in my hand. I have the Patriot Fire Team Equipment Guide. Yes, indeed. This is available right now as an Amazon paperback or as a Kindle. Now, in this book, I go into personal protective gear, hearing protection, eye protection. You're like, yeah, but that's for the range. That's not for fighting. No, actually, eye protection, ear protection are for fighting too. We talk about bump guard and eyes. Your hands must be protected. Regardless of how strong your armor might be, if your hands, particularly your dominant hand, are injured, you will be of little use to yourself and your team until they are repaired and healed. Two primary threats to your hands are cuts, scrapes, slices, splinters, and burns. It doesn't make any sense to wear a bump guard or a helmet or armor, eye pro, all that stuff, and have bare hands. Because if how effective are you going to be as a team member? Probably not very. Now, he says training, but we train like we fight, and we train in order to fight. Would you recommend them for training? Yes, I would. As a matter of fact, I would absolutely recommend, if you have gloves, if you're one of those people out there who thinks, well, I've got my just in case gear. I'm a prepared individual. I've been preparing for a long time. Slowly but surely, I've gotten what I need. I have a plate carrier. I have pouches on it. I have an individual first aid kit. I got a blowout kit, tourniquets, all that stuff. I know what to do. Got my rifle, and I'm not going to let a bunch of yahoos come wandering into my neighborhood and just arbitrarily start breaking into houses and doing what they want. Not going to happen where I live, Brosif. And you've also got gloves. Maybe you went to a company like Blackhawk. Blackhawk they've got a line of gloves. They've got Nomex gloves, which are what? What are Nomex gloves, Zach? Flame what?
Retardant,
flame resistant. Right. Jared, you know what pilot gloves are, right? You know those pilot gloves look like?
Yep.
The ones that go like halfway up your arm?
Yeah.
Those are the world famous Nomex gloves, right? And why do they give those to pilots?
Because they're flame retardant.
Right, in case there's a flash fire, because they're always dealing with fuel, and there's always, every time you're in an aircraft, there's a fire danger. And this is what people say. What? Every time I'm in an aircraft, there's a fire danger? No. Maybe the ones, no, I hate to break your heart. And this is one of those things that the airlines don't ever like to say. But every time you're in an aircraft, there's fire danger. Because why? What are the wings filled with? What are the wings filled with, Jared? Fuel. Combustible material, right? Oh, my friend Masad Ayub, and yes, he is my friend. I've known him for probably 20 years or more. Way back when, in the old days, in the era of the original Surefire 6P, right? When the 6P was the quintessential flashlight, right? He was one of the first guys to get on board with the idea that you should, even if you don't carry a gun, he said, even if you're not carrying a gun, you should carry a flashlight. You should always have a flashlight. And he used to talk about, he goes, you can't carry a gun on an airplane, but you can carry a flashlight on an airplane. And he said, every once in a while he would get questioned. They're like, why do you think you need a flashlight on this plane? And he would say, because when this thing crashes and skids to a halt on the runway and it's filling with smoke, I'm going to find my way out of it. And they're like, that's not an issue. That doesn't ever happen. It's never going to happen. He's like, no, that happens. And he said, when the cabin fills with smoke, I'm going to be able to find my way out of it. And they're like, they didn't like him saying that. And they're like, let's take your flashlight and get out of here. But the fact of the matter is, anytime you're working in or around a vehicle, there is fire danger. Okay, there's heat danger. If you are running an AK, Jared, can we testify? Testify.
Yep.
Should you or should you not run an AK barehanded?
You should not, if you like yourself, you should not run an AK barehanded.
Now, have I shot an AK with bare hands? Yes. If I was going to a training school or if I was going to run an AK or fight with an AK, I would absolutely have gloves on my hands, because of all the guns out there, the AK pretty much doesn't care and it wants to cut you. You don't realize how many places on an AK there are to cut you until you take it to a school and a class and you run it and you're like, what? Why are my hands bleeding? Why are my hands raw and bleeding? Because, but it's good. It's okay though, because the salt in the blood that gets on the metal, over time it smooths it out. It smooths it out.
I'm just gonna let that one go.
We should take a jeweler's cloth and polish. Our friend at Occam Defense.
Yep.
Brian Keeney. Yep. He can tell you. I don't know. Did he ever do a video about that? I bet you.
Probably. If he didn't, he should.
If he didn't, he should. He knows all the places on an AK that want to cut you and scrape you when you're running it. And he actually has it. You know, he'll tell you, hey, do this, and this is where it needs to be polished and smooth so that it doesn't cut you. But the answer is yes, you should be wearing gloves. The answer is no, you should not be wearing fingerless gloves. If you're going to wear fingerless gloves, just don't wear gloves. You know, Jared, when should you have fingerless gloves?
Never?
No, when they lock the gate and ring the bell.
What? Oh.
No.
I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. Okay to have fingerless gloves. How were those 4-ounce gloves?
8 ounce.
8 ounce? Were those 8s?
Man, you know what? I don't even remember now.
I think they're 4s.
They might be.
The fingerless UFC gloves are 4s. But anyway, that is when you should have fingerless gloves. If you're in the octagon or similar shape, and they have locked the gate and rung the bell, that's the time to have fingerless gloves.
Yeah, there are 4. The 8 ounce ones are the ones that we used in training.
Yep. And 16 are boxers.
Yeah.
But if you are running a rifle and you need to protect your hands, if you're working in and around vehicles, going in and out of vehicles, you need to protect all your digits, because it's purposeless and pointless to you say, well, what is more delicate on your hand, the back of your hand or your fingertips? If you get a cut on the back or a scrape on the back of your hand, can you still pull the trigger and work the safeties and do all that? Let's say you get a laceration across your top 3 fingers. How easy is it going to be to run that gun? Not very. You can live with a laceration or a scrape on the back of your hand. You're not going to be very effective to your team with lacerations or scrapes or splinters or whatever in your fingers, in your digits. And this is when people say, what, Jared? This is when someone gets on the keyboard and they're like, derp, 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 cannot shoot gun accurately with gloves on.
We're not doing precision shooting here.
Well, it doesn't matter. I went through sniper school and I wore gloves all day, every day. Every shot I fired was with gloves on my hands.
Yeah.
And I passed, got certificate and everything. The fact of the matter is the gloves should be mechanics gloves are good. Unfortunately, they screwed the stitching It's going to happen. If you have the opportunity to actually physically inspect the gloves, this is my tip to you guys. Let's say you go to your local auto parts store and they've got one of those mechanics gloves displays, which most of them do, right? Especially if they're a big store. They got a mechanics glove display. Number one, that's good because you can try them on. Number two, you can turn them inside out. And you're like, really? Yeah, because that's where the stitching is. That's where you'll see the stitching. I like mechanics gloves, but I've also had mechanics gloves where they missed the stitching on a seam and it was like a fraction tiny. And as soon as I put them on and started using them, the seam split because the stitching was screwed. And that's because they're making them as fast as the Chinese slaves are cranking them out as fast as they can. And that happens. Another place to get good gloves is Lowe's. If you go to Lowe's, they will have a glove section and it'll start at the super El Cheapo, like $3 a pair. And then it'll go up to like $20, $30 a pair of gloves. And you can do the same thing. You can try them on and you can also turn them inside out and you can check the stitching. If you're buying them online, you can't really do that. So it's just kind of going to get what you get. I know Blackhawk gloves are good. I've worn Blackhawk gloves ever since they started making them. So whatever. Mechanics gloves are kind of the default because they're everywhere. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them at Lowe's. You can get them at Farm Supply. You can get them at pretty much every big store. Knuckles. If you're going to work a lot in and out of vehicles, knuckle protection is a good idea because that is when you're going to rack your knuckles. You are going to rack and crush your knuckles when you're getting in and out of vehicles, trucks, cars, armored vehicles, whatever. If you're getting in and out of vehicles, you're probably going to mess up your knucks. He's working on armored vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and so forth. That's why they have the knuckle things. Here, the downside, Jared, what is the downside to knuckle gloves? What can't you access?
Your pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like the downside. There's actually a couple.
Yeah.
If you're if you're near anything that you don't want to be able to like bump into and create damage, then there's a downside because when you bump your knuckles on with those knuckle gloves, whatever you're bumping into is going to like your car or whatever. Yeah, I've actually scratched I think it was the Ranger that I had scratched it with the knuckle gloves.
What?
Because we were at the range and I was actually I was using the car or the truck. Maybe it was the Equinox. I can't remember, but it was one of those things. I was actually using the vehicle. Yeah. And so anyway, but if you want to be able to access what's in your pockets, even cargo pockets are difficult to access with the knuckle gloves on.
You can get into your leg pockets, but you definitely cannot get your hands in your front pockets with knuckle gloves on because even when your hands are flat, the knuckle thing is sticking up.
Yep.
So there is a downside to those. Now, as far as touchscreen compatibility, here's the dealio. Are you fighting or are you posting on Facebook? And you're like, well, what about, yes, I know that if you're like, okay, there's kind of a middle ground here. So there's the middle ground of I'm just screwing around at the range and I want to send people pictures of me on Instagram. Okay. And then there's middle ground where I'm just fighting. And then there's like tier 1 stuff where I actually have comm gear. Let's say you've got you've got comm gear and your comm gear or your GPS or whatever, your high speed stuff is touchscreen. All right. If you're like super high speed and you're trying to use GPS and comm gear and so forth, that can get frustrating, not being able to use it. Are there gloves out there that are touchscreen capable? Yes, there are. There are some. Matter of fact, I think the ones that I have that I keep in my windbreaker from Blackhawk, they've got a little weird touchy thing on the index fingers. So you can do that. If you're just going to go, like say you're just going to go to a Jaeger's place and take fighting rifle with an AK or any rifle, not just AK, any rifle. You're going to take fighting rifle. Just buy gloves and wear them. don't worry about, you don't need to like satellite communicate with, the headquarters or anything like that. And if you want to Instagram yourself, just take your gloves off and Instagram yourself. Is it that big of a deal? It depends. It depends on what you're planning on doing. Gloves are one of those things that I will say, one is good, but two is better. Every pack I have, every go bag I have has gloves inside of it. Now I have gloves hooked onto a carbiner on my armor. They're always there. So if I grab my armor, I've already got gloves attached to it. But every go bag I have also has gloves. And in my truck, underneath the cargo seat, guess what there is? Gloves. The fact is, I'm kind of a glove geek, but the fact of the matter is gloves are not that expensive. Like I said, go to Lowe's, and you can get a good pair of snugly fitting gloves for $20. Mechanics gloves, $20 to $30. You can get a good pair of gloves. Now, here's the thing with gloves. Last thing I'm going to say about gloves. Gloves need to fit snugly, and I put that in the book. They need to fit snugly and securely on your hands. An extra half inch hanging off of the end of your trigger finger or whatever is no-go. That's a no-go. And they need to fit snugly all the way up to your wrist so they're not slipping. And some of them have just elastic wrists, and then some of them have the Velcro to snug it down and tie it hard against your wrist so it doesn't come off. Whichever one you like, go for it. But the gloves need to fit your hand like a second skin. And the best way to do that, you're like, well, I don't know if I'm a large glove, a medium glove, an extra large glove, or whatever. Here's the thing. Even if you're going to order them online, go to a store and try the gloves on. Go to a store and try the gloves on, and then you'll know, okay, my hands are medium hands. And you might look at your hand and say, I got a big hand. Do you really have technically, do you have a big hand, or is your hand a large? Because if your hand is a size large and you buy XL gloves, they're not going to fit you properly. But if your hand is a large and you buy medium gloves, same thing. And especially the really good stitched protective gloves, they don't stretch out a lot. They stretch out a little, but not a lot. So don't think, well, I got an extra large hand. I'll just take these large gloves and I'll stretch them out and they'll fit. No, because what will happen is they won't fit. They'll be hanging off of your wrist, hanging up off your palm. So the answer is yes. Gloves are a very important part of your personal protective gear. They should fit snugly and securely on your hand. And if you cut the fingers of your Nomex gloves off, I'm going to come and I'm going to hit you on the head with a tack hammer because you are a TikTok. Okay? There we go. I saw that happen. Hand to God. Teaching military kids, doing the small arms and tactics, and these two 19-year-olds show up. They went to the PX. They dropped like $60 on Black Hawk Nomex gloves. They showed up the next day with all the fingers cut off. Like, who told you to do that? Well, no one did. Exactly. No one did.
Exactly.
You just took a $60 pair of gloves and destroyed them. Congratulations. All right, Jared. Zach, you calm down. Jared, go ahead and thank the top contributors to the Student of the Gun Public Group.
As always, each week we thank the top contributors to the Student of the Gun Public Group, and this week is no different. If you're not a member, go join it. Number 10 is Andrew Reinert. 9 is Steve Brigantis. 8 is John Smith. 7, Derek Babcock. Number 6 is Melissa Ridings. 5, Jeremiah Mason. 4 is Daniel Larson. 3, Bernie Gallenstein. Number 2 is Haywood Jabloni. And number 1 is Trent Wood.
All right. You know why Melissa is dropped? Well, you know why she dropped her rating drop?
Because she was at the class.
Because she was traveling for 3 days, 3 or 4 days. Duracoat. Why? Because they got a brand new website. Did you see that? Did you get that notification? Yep. I got that notification. Did you get that notification? Yeah. They upgraded their website and they said, awesome. If we have any problems, sorry, we will fix them as quickly as possible. So yes, they upgraded their website. Yes, indeed, they did. So check those guys out. If you haven't been to Duracoat Firearm Finishes in a while, you're like, well, I don't know. What does it look like? Well, you just go there, and then you'll find out, right? Right. Who else do we want to thank besides them? Crossbreed Holsters, the makers of the Super Tuck Deluxe, now the Reckoning and the Chest Rig. You can get all of that at crossbreedholsters.com. Use the promo code SOTG18, and you can upgrade to the better version for basically free. Not exactly for free, but it's like for free. And Brownells, our good friends at Brownells, they helped us out with our recent, as we talked about Friday. I was to say, we already talked about it, but we talked about it on a different channel, so people didn't hear. We're going to be testing a 6mm Creedmoor bolt-action precision rifle. We got a variety of ammunition that we ordered from the folks at Brownells. So they still do, even though a lot of stuff is hard to find, Brownells does still have ammunition in stock. So check those guys out and make sure you sign up for their newsletter. All right, Zach, tell everybody what they need to hear.
Attention, new listeners. We produced a complimentary online training course called 7 Training Tips That Could Save Your Life. Get instant access by joining the Student Lounge for free at studentofthegun.com. Do you watch Student of the Gun TV, read the blog, and follow us on Facebook? If you answered no to any of these questions, you are wrong, but you can easily fix yourself. Go to studentofthegun.com to find everything SOTG.
Ba-ba-bum. All right, understanding the importance of team. People have said there's no I in team. No, there isn't. There isn't. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of folks, apparently they've misunderstood. I thought that I explained this well enough. But based upon the feedback that I've gotten from the various forms of interwebs, apparently I've not explained it well enough. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to tell you that a bunch of individuals, a bunch of like-minded individuals is good to have. Is it not? Would you say it's better to be around like-minded individuals? And I don't mean yes men, but I mean people who, like, if I said, you know, we shouldn't let people come into our neighborhood and rob us, and you said, you're right, we shouldn't, then we're like-minded individuals, right? But just because you have like-minded individuals doesn't mean you're a team. How do you become a team, Jared? What is the basic step or the basic building block, I guess the foundational building block of team formation, whether it's basketball, football, whatever?
I would say trust or getting to know each other.
Right, but I mean, if you're like-minded individuals, you're like, we all agree, you know, we're sitting around drinking coffee, smoking cigars, drinking beer, whatever. We all agree that this is the thing we should do. But does that make us a team?
Well, training together is part of being a team.
Bingo. Training together. Training together. A commonality of training. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think, if you're like, well, my plan is I have a couple of neighbors who are gun guys too. I'm a gun guy. They're gun guys. So, you know, if we ever get to a situation where, you know, these bad people on TV want to come into our neighborhood and do bad things, well, then I'll just call my friend Frank and he'll call Bill, and we're a team and we're going to do good things and protect our families. You may do that, but you're not a team. 4 dudes with, you know, who like guns, or 3 dudes or 10 dudes or whatever who like guns are not a team, because they have no common, there's no commonality in their training. If you're working with someone, Jared, have you ever been a member of a team and someone, you needed someone to do something, but they went ahead and did it before you could tell them to do it?
Yes.
Yes. That's what being a team is, knowing what needs to be done before it even needs to be done. Or telling someone, go over there and do that, and knowing that they're going to be able to accomplish that task because you know that they have the ability to do it. That's a team. A team is having confidence that if you send someone to do something, that task is going to get accomplished, because you know, based upon your experience, that they have the ability and you trust them to do that. In a situation like we see right now, I mean, since we did the You're on Your Own show, it's actually magnified and it's gotten worse in Minneapolis. Have you seen that, Jared?
No.
Okay, it's gotten worse. They've actually doubled down. Now they're having the local news run these like 5 steps to deal with crime. Don't walk alone. Be prepared to surrender your valuables. Don't argue, whatever. Oh, this nonsense, this crazy, insane nonsense, where we have the state from a constitutional standpoint has very few actual responsibilities. Now, I know they like to historically take on more authority than the Constitution gives them, but one of the things that the state says is the protection of the borders and so forth. The people should be protected from mass thuggery, right, by the state. Now you say, aha, Paul, but you've already said that the cops aren't constitutionally responsible. Yes, they are. But on one hand of the coin, we have the Joe Bidens of the world, the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, the Chuck Schumers of the world, the Shannon, our favorite sandwich maker, who's the Nanny Bloomberg. We have Nanny Bloomberg and his sandwich makers that constantly go on TV and say, you stupid peasants, it's not your responsibility. On one hand of the coin. Did I say one hand of the coin?
Yeah, you said on one side of the coin.
Or on one hand. On one hand, we have them that say, hey, you stupid peasants, it's not your job. It's a police job. You shouldn't own those kind of guns. You shouldn't be allowed to own those kind of guns. I mean, Biden has said if he becomes the king, because apparently someone told Joe that he was running for king of America, and that when he became the king, he could just sit on his throne and issue edicts. He's already said, well, when I become the president, yeah, you can say goodbye to your assault weapons. I'm like, that's not how that works. The president can't make law, right? That's the Congress. Nope. When I become president, doesn't matter. Okay, Joe. All right. So on one hand, they'll tell you you shouldn't. But on the other hand, the Supreme Court says that they're not constitutionally responsible for you. So who is? Jared, how long has it been since we talked about the efficiency of the Militia Act of 1903, also known as the Dick Act?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. There's probably people out there that are like, what is this guy talking about? There's no law that says that there's a militia in America. Actually, there is. You can find it. It's a federal law. It's called the Dick Act because the guy from Ohio who sponsored it, his last name was Dick, D-I-C-K. It's also called the Efficiency or the Efficacy of the Militia Act. And it essentially says that all American males, healthy American males from, I think it's 18 to 43, are members of the unorganized militia. And you're like, militia's a National Guard. Nope. National Guard are professionals that get paid to do it. Militias don't get paid. Militias are citizens. They're just you. If you believe that it is the responsibility of the citizen in the community to protect their fellow citizens and their community, you need to understand that it's not good enough just to go buy stuff. And that's what we like to do. We like to buy stuff. And then we have a bunch of stuff and we're like, okay, I'm ready. But that doesn't make you ready. You need a team. You need other people. And you need to start working with these people right now. Saying, well, I mean, if anything bad ever happens and if there actually is a crisis, then we'll all come together and we'll all know what to do and we'll all function cohesively as a unit. No, you won't. It will be a giant goat rodeo. I didn't say cluster bang. It'll be a giant goat rodeo. Ladies and gentlemen, the time to start working with other people is now. That is why I wrote this book, the original Patriot Fire Team Manual, where I spell it all out. Lots of detail, 250 pages almost of detail. But I didn't get into individual equipment. And people said, no, Paul, tell me what exactly to buy and tell me what kind of guns to have and so on and so forth. Okay, so I did this, the Patriot Fire Team Equipment Guide. Most of you already have the PFT manual. I know that. This one is a follow-on. And one of the things that I put in here is how to work with your community. Have you ever thought about what you would do if you were let's say you're in a suburb of Minneapolis, and the Minneapolis police have said, you're on your own. Criminals are going to come, and you just need to be ready to give them what they want. And this is when you say, excuse me, baking powder? How does that stop crime? How does surrendering to the criminals make them not do it more? But you'll be safe. What? Jared, explain to me how victims of crime are safe.
They're not.
Yeah, but according to the chief of police of Minneapolis, if you surrender to a criminal, that makes you safe. Okay. All right. But let's say you're out there and you're like, no, homie, don't play that. And I'm not going to just let this happen. Have you ever thought about how you would stop a bunch like 20, 30, 50 thugs from just running like locusts through your neighborhood? How would you slow them down? I'm going to shoot them all. Yeah, but there's like 1, 2, 3, 5 of you, and there's 50 of them. How are you going to slow them down? Yeah, I actually talk about that. I do an entire section called Access Denial and Intruder Detection in this book. So, ladies and gentlemen, a team is more than just a bunch of dudes who agree on a basic concept. A team is people who have worked together, people who have trained together, people who understand what needs to be done before they're even told to do it. That is a team. And if you're going to survive in the winter that is coming to the United States of America, you need a team. We've laid it out. I gave you the blueprint. The blueprints are available. It's up to you to read them.
And it's different if you say, yeah, well, we've all trained separately. We all have the skills. Yeah, but one of the first things to break down when you start working together as a team is communication. And you need to know how to communicate with each other, even through stressful situations.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's very important to train not only individually, but together as a team.
Yeah, I mean, I understand people are like, oh, we got jobs and we got families and stuff. We all can't just go to these training classes together. Okay, fine. But if you've all, let's say you all gone to the same class, now you can go. Why do we go to training? To learn how and what to practice. So you go to training and learn how and what to practice. Then you go with other people and you practice. There's a big difference between and 4 guys going to a shooting range at the same time and shooting paper targets at the same time is not team training. Like, yeah, it is. We all had 4 targets. And we all stood there and we all shot 4 targets. That's not team training. Team training is when you go out and there's 2 targets and one guy falls down and he needs to be evacuated. And then one person has to, who's going to evacuate that guy and who's going to keep shooting? What? What are you talking about, Paul? That never happens in the real world. Yeah, it happens all the time. And you can't just say, well, we're all smart people. We'll figure it out. You will default to the level of training you have mastered. And if your idea is, well, we're all smart people, we'll figure it out, that is not the plan to have, ladies and gentlemen. The time to start working with your team is right now. And that's why I worked really hard I know I'm bragging, but no, I worked very diligently to get this information out because I believe that right now, this summer, it's more important for you to have that than any time in the history of this nation. I mean, we literally have police departments in this country pulling back and allowing the thuggery to just do whatever they want. I never thought I would live in a country where I understand that the Supreme Court says blah, blah, blah. But what did the Supreme Court say, Jared? That they're only duty bound to protect society as
a whole.
As a whole, not the individual. But what happens when they just abandon society as a whole?
Well,
they're like, well,
in certain places, if they do take action and don't pull back, they're raked across the coals, or raked over the coals.
By whom?
By the politicians.
Who allowed that to happen?
And they, yeah, I guess that's true.
The people.
Yeah.
The people, you know.
It's a whole messed up situation.
It is. But it's messed up, but it's not going to help you to allow your neighborhood, your family, your community to be abused, to be robbed, to be raped, to be, you know, in the greatest extreme, you know, the farthest extreme, murdered because the cops don't want to come because their politician boss said don't. You can right now. The information is available. The tools are available. The opportunity is available to function as a secure community. It's just up to you to do it. There you go. All right. Thank you very much for listening today. Thank you very much for being a part of the Student of the Gun audience. I truly appreciate it. Thank you for not cutting the fingers off of your Nomex gloves. Dear Lord, don't make me hit you in the head with a tack hammer. I'll send Tommy back there. David Spade's going to send Tommy back there to hit you in the head with a tack hammer. Are you still there, Jerry?
Yeah. I was just enjoying that.
TikToks everywhere. All right. Remember, you're a beginner once.
You're a student for life.
We appreciate your reviews. If you haven't left a review or updated yours recently, head on over to Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player to voice your opinion. Don't forget to join us at the Student Lounge, a place for like-minded individuals to learn, connect, and support each other. No chicanery will be tolerated. Remember to check studentofthegun.com daily for new, free content and giveaways. Watch, listen, read, shop, and connect at studentofthegun.com. Are you a social butterfly? Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for new content each and every day at Student of the Gun. Watch Student of the Gun TV and videos from our trusted partners on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, and even AirPlay. Go to studentofthegun.com for direct links, and remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.